Switched On IT is proudly brought to you by Computer Troubleshooters, Toowoomba West, Technology Solved, and Oz Hosting, Cloud Made Easy.
Welcome to Switched On IT. I'm Barry. This is the show where we talk about everything IT. Today we are talking, or at least Doug and Ray, who are going to join us remotely, going to talk about file sharing. Doug and Ray, good morning, gentlemen. How are you today?
G'day, Barry. This is Doug in Sydney. Good to see you.
Good morning, Doug.
Well,
And Ray, you're in Washington?
yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, I believe today you are going to discuss file sharing, so we'll turn this over to you now. Please tell us how to effectively share files.
Good day. Thanks, Barry. So, at Oz Hosting, we certainly talk to a lot of customers about file sharing services. Not everybody is using file sharing in small business in Australia, which is probably quite surprising. But one of the observations that we make is that a lot of people are still just attaching a file to an email and then sending it on to their customer or their supplier or their prospective customer, and so on. And of course, one of the impacts that has is that, particularly when it's large files, then their mailbox starts to fill up quite considerably. So we've certainly got thousands of customers that have got 20, 30, 40, 50 gig mailboxes. And, oftentimes there's a hell of a lot of duplication in that mailbox as well. They might have 20 or 30 very small variants of a very large PowerPoint presentation that has been tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and gone back and forth. Obviously, the same goes for design work when you're getting information from graphic designers who are seeking approval on artwork. These things can certainly chew up a hell of a lot of storage in your email service, and it creates another problem that we see on a regular basis as well, and that is that you run into an issue with version control. So, for example, if we're working on a legal contract and you send me a version at 11 o'clock in the morning, for example, and then you beaver away and you work on that, and then you send me another version at sort of 3 in the afternoon. If I don't pick that up, you might call me at 5 in the afternoon, and I'm just getting through my email because I've been doing other things. I've been out of the office or whatever, and I might get to the one that you sent me in the morning and work on that. And then you're on the phone talking to me about the one that you sent in the afternoon. And I've got the one from the morning open in front of me, and we have unbeknownst to either party, a misguided conversation. There's miscommunication, and that is where then some quite serious problems can start to emerge, because the people just are literally not on the same page. So the great thing about sending somebody a link to an individual file is that if you've updated it in the interim, if I click on that link from my 11 a.m. email, it's the same link that you would have sent me at 3 in the afternoon. So whenever I click on that link, I am seeing the latest version of that particular document. And if you're on the phone talking to me about it, or we're in a phone conference and we've got multiple people talking about it, if they've used that link, then everybody is looking at exactly the same document. So version control is, I think, a really valuable capability or feature of a file sharing service. And I certainly, in the small businesses that we sort of work with and talk to on a daily basis, bump into that quite a bit. So it's also a very efficient way of sharing a lot of files. Now, there's a lot of file sharing platforms out there, and I think there's some other kind of use cases that emerge for businesses where file sharing can be also quite useful. So I'd ask you, Ray, firstly, other kind of usage situations where you see file sharing has a very important role to play in small business? And then also let's maybe then start to tick off who are the major providers in file sharing, and why should we consider them?
Yeah, so there are really three classes of types of file sharing. You identified probably the most important one, which is a centralized document repository where you have the opportunity to be able to share specific files or maybe folders of files to specific parties, so that you're able to both have a centralized document so that you're both on, as you said, the same page, pun intended. And the other side is to have the ability to collaborate on sending those files and be in synchronization with your own organization of those files, so that you don't have a ballooning of your email and not knowing where those files are. You can always put your hand on the file because the file is always in the same place. Then there is a class of software sort of tangential to that, which is there's once in a while when you need to send a very large file, and it's a one-time send from one device to another. And this might be a graphic designer sending a very large design project. It might be you transferring a database of some kind from one location to the other. And so there's that kind of one-time, very large file size movement types of services. And we have a couple of those that we'll talk about. And then there's the in-person transfer of documentation. That is, we're sitting around the conference table and we need to be able to transfer a file among one another. And there's that kind of file transferring. And so I think those are the three that we should probably talk about today. And I'll just start with the low-hanging fruit here, which is the one-time transfer type tools that are out there. So the one that I know of and most people have heard of is WeTransfer, which is a platform that allows you to be able to sign up for an account and send multi-gigabyte sized files. And there's a fee associated with that and all kinds of other things. Going a little bit further forward, then we have Firefox Send. And so the folks at Mozilla Foundation who created the Firefox browser have this free service that allows you to send up to 2.5 gigabytes through their service. It's end-to-end encrypted. The link has an expiration on it. And so you're able to actually transfer very large files from one person to another. So if I had, say, my entire website in a big zip file, multiple gigabytes, and I needed to transfer that, I couldn't email it. I'd have to potentially upload it, say, to Google Drive, save it into my Google Drive, and then share that document, that zip file, with Doug in order to be able to get it. But say, for example, I don't want to put that whole thing into my Google Drive, and I just want to send it directly to Doug so that he can download it on a device somewhere. Well, with Firefox Send It, I can go ahead and get the file uploaded. I then have a link. I can text him the link. I can share the link with him in any way, shape, or form I'd like to. And now he can go ahead and download that, and we're good to go.
Is your computer driving you crazy? Is it slow or doing things you didn't expect? Well, having a computer crash or pick up a virus can be a complete nightmare for a business, so having someone local you can trust to get you up and running again is critical. The dedicated team of experts at Computer Troubleshooters Toowoomba West will put your mind at ease from the moment you walk through the door and will get your problem solved in no time with a 100% guarantee on their work. Laptops, tablets, PCs, whatever you have, Roger and the team can fix it for you. So visit them today at 236 Bridge Street, Newtown. Can't get in to see them? No worries. Just call them on 4642 1331 and they'll come to you. Toowoomba Troubleshooters Toowoomba West on the web at www.computertroubleshooters.com.au/Toowoomba West.
Hutchies lives here. We're locals, just like you. To us, construction is really about people, not just bricks and concrete. It's people who bring our structures to life and build communities. We stick by the people who make communities. From Toowoomba Rugby League to RACQ Life Flight Rescue Service, Milne Bay Military Challenge, and the Toowoomba Tennis International, Hutchies is proud to back the people who support the region.
Oz Hosting is proud to support Switched On IT in bringing practical help to Australian businesses. We're talking to literally hundreds of businesses every day about their IT services, how to make them more efficient, how to make their businesses more efficient, and how to protect their valuable data. If you'd like your IT services securely hosted right here in Australia and expertly managed, talk to Oz Hosting.
So there are those kinds of file items. The bulk majority of file sharing is now done within the major platforms that are out there. And we have things like Google, Apple, and Microsoft all really championing the document storage space. And so each of them has their own products. Google with Google Drive, OneDrive is the Microsoft product, of course, akin to SharePoint in the enterprise environment. And then Apple iCloud, which of course holds all different types of things within their system. But there's some smaller ones out there. What are some of the smaller ones, Doug, that you know about? And I know that Oz Hosting themselves, you have your own product that's specific to some of your clients. And so tell us a little about maybe some of the smaller players in the market and what they're doing, and then a little bit about your product at Oz Hosting.
Sure. So with our customer base, a lot of them historically were using products like Dropbox and Google Drive. We've got a lot of customers that are using Office 365 and are using OneDrive as part of the Office 365 feature set. And many of our customers did bump into a few concerns they had with some of these different products. Their concern with a product like Dropbox was that many of them that are involved in law services, financial services, healthcare, had a data sovereignty concern where they wanted to make sure that the data was held in Australia. So for them, that meant that some of the big global products were not really suitable for them, and they wanted to use something else. And then we also found that with our customers using the Office 365 service and OneDrive, where that wasn't such a big concern, the concern or the feature that they were looking for there was they wanted to actually share files and folders with external parties. And with the Office 365 service, that actually means that you're probably going to set up a SharePoint installation, and for many of them, the cost and complexity of that, if you're a small office of 5 or 10 people, it just wasn't warranted, having that level of complexity. So they were looking for a Dropbox type of service where they could share, to their stakeholders, to their clients, customers, patients, suppliers, etc. Folders of information regarding their business, and also receive information, and that's where we decided to use a product that came out of Denmark called Rush Files. And the model with that is a little different, because with this particular model, our customer is actually buying storage to use in a file sharing platform, and they don't have to buy individual user accounts for each user that they're going to sign up. So if they were a business of, say, 5 or 10 staff, that's going to run out at anything from probably $150 to $300 a month just for their staff, for each staff member to have the file sharing account. With the Oz Hosting process, what we said was you'll pay $200 a month for the storage, and then you can create unlimited users, and they can be internal and external users. So, for example, if you've got if you're a law firm and you've got a bunch of clients that you've got all the legal advice that you've given them over many years with title deeds and property contracts and bank agreements and all that kind of information, you can put that into a user account, organize it nicely for them, share it with them. As they have a user account, they can upload content as well, which makes it easy for information to go in both directions. But then the law firm maintains control over it. So if that client comes back to them and says, I'm leaving you, and the law firm thinks, well, we've got a lot of our own IP in there, we don't want that to walk out the door, they can they can disable access, or if the client comes back and just says, I've left my phone or my laptop on the train, and that has access to all that important information, then you can selectively disable access to that information, and you've got an audit trail to see what information has been accessed by whom and where at any time as well. So it's got the full GDPR out of Europe, global data protection regulation compliance. So it's quite a strong tool, and we found in Australia that there's plenty of businesses that will look at something like that and they'll say, OneDrive is not going to do it for them, or they have a data sovereignty concern, and therefore a product like this then becomes quite useful. So it's not for everybody, obviously, but we found it quite useful for a subset of customers.
Yeah, so there are some smaller players in the market. I say smaller players as though Dropbox is like a little drop in the bucket. But Dropbox is not Google. They're not Apple or Microsoft, and so they are not necessarily not a top tier player in the file sharing and file storage space, but they are not one of the big folks. But Dropbox is out there. We have Box. We have SugarSync. All of them. I would say that Dropbox tries to differentiate themselves, and so does Box, in the way in which they have created their integrations and their platform. SugarSync has been a great platform, and I've used it in the past and have really liked it, but I don't see a dramatic differentiator. There are some other ones. pCloud is one, if you wanted to try that out. That's more personal than business. I wouldn't recommend really SugarSync or pCloud for business, but certainly personal storage is okay. One that I always like to point out for those who are very, very security conscious, it's a double-edged sword, right? So with security, you lose convenience. And so there's one called SpiderOak. And so what SpiderOak does is they have it's end-to-end encryption. And when you put a file onto their system, there's a key, right? So there's one key, you hold that key, and if for some reason you lose access to your SpiderOak account, no one else can ever get back into it. It's a black hole, and you just can't get the data back out. So it's a very, very secure platform if you need to put something out there on the internet in that secure environment. But it also means that if you ever were to lose your password or anything like that, do not expect to get that data back. So high security, high inconvenience on that level as well. So we have those kinds of things. I wanted to talk a little bit about Amazon, because Amazon is in this market. And so Amazon has Amazon Drive. And for those who are Amazon Prime members, you actually get a certain allotment of storage, but you also get unlimited photo storage as a part of that. And I don't want to talk about photo storage here today, but I just wanted to let people know that if you're an Amazon Prime member, you do have this additional benefit of having Amazon Drive there. If you're just an Amazon user, you actually also have Amazon Drive. I think they give you the same, like 5 gigabytes free kind of deal, and for free. And but if you are in an Amazon household where everybody uses and works within the Amazon environment, you do have that ability to put files into Amazon. And that's kind of, so I wanted to kind of discuss the idea of how do you choose which of these platforms to use. And I frequently talk about the idea that if you are in a predominantly Google ecosystem at the office, it's probably easy to, or at home, that predominance toward that platform probably makes it easy to use that document platform for centralization and sharing and collaboration. Do you find that to be the case, that people who have one particular platform at the office, say, tend to use those things at home? Or do you see that there's a split where people use one platform at home and another platform with their personal life and family, or at work, and then one with their personal home and family?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, look, we frequently see a little bit of a split where people are using, for work, they're probably using Microsoft, for their email, and then that sort of verges them into guides them into using OneDrive, and they start using, OneDrive for file sharing. And I think a lot of times, a lot of personal stuff ends up on OneDrive, which is another, problematic, I think, experience for a lot of small businesses. But we also see in the home environment, people are then using things like free Dropbox, and just keeping it under I think it's a 15 gig limit that Dropbox set for the free service, and or using the Apple iCloud as a storage service as well. And I think that's got a lot to do with just the user interface and the ease of deployment. And then, of course, once they've got some files in there, they're loath to adopt some other service. So, certainly I'd see from a commercial standpoint, a file sharing service is an incredibly sticky product. Once people, start using it, they become quite committed to it because they just find the degree of getting, or the degree of difficulty in getting off it is quite a challenge.
Yeah, I see the same thing. Since I'm predominantly working with people who are in the Google business ecosystem using G Suite and other tools, they frequently will have that at work, and they will then maybe have an iPhone and using all of the Google products for G Suite on the iPhone, and then having their Apple products for their home life. And then I feel like the enlightened business owners choose to then synchronize that across the board. And I love the deep integration of Android and G Suite, and so being able to have my phone work in the same way as it does in the browser just so cleanly is nice. And I tend to think about that for Apple as well. If you're in an Apple ecosystem, it's really nice to see iCloud just naturally synchronize across all various Apple devices. And one thing that I've really found to be both fascinating and powerful is that Microsoft has worked very, very hard to work seamlessly across both their Windows operating system, but also into and on other devices. So what I tend to see now is that if I have an Office 365 account, it doesn't really matter what device I'm on. I could be on an Android phone, I could be on an iPhone, I could be on an iPad, I can be on a Windows Surface, and I have generally the same experience on mobile on any device and the same desktop experience on any device as well. And so Microsoft has made some really, really strong inroads in making sure that their platform extends beyond just the Windows experience. And I think that has been a testament to the CEO, Satya Nadella's work in making sure that Microsoft is viable for the future and making sure that their platform continues to thrive beyond just the operating system. They're no longer just an operating system. They are so much more in the sense of being a global platform where these productivity tools are available to anyone on whatever platform they're on. And so I am remarkably, if you asked me this a decade ago, I would not have been the biggest Microsoft fan, but I have really seen a huge, huge job, the work being put in to making Microsoft products really work well across other platforms. And so now they have really strong parity with Google Drive and Google Docs, Google Sheets, and so on and so forth that, take them back 5-8 years, and they really didn't have that level of parity. And now they do. And I think that's really good. It's good to have healthy competition and being able to use those across many platforms.
Is your computer driving you crazy? Is it slow or doing things you didn't expect? Well, having a computer crash or pick up a virus can be a complete nightmare for a business, so having someone local you can trust to get you up and running again is critical. The dedicated team of experts at Computer Troubleshooters Toowoomba West will put your mind at ease from the moment you walk through the door and will get your problem solved in no time with a 100% guarantee on their work. Laptops, tablets, PCs, whatever you have, Roger and the team can fix it for you. So visit them today at 236 Bridge Street, Newtown. Can't get in to see them? No worries. Just call them on 4642 1331 and they'll come to you. Toowoomba Troubleshooters Toowoomba West on the web at www.computertroubleshooters.com.au/Toowoomba West.
Hutchie's lives here. We're locals, just like you. To us, construction is really about people, not just bricks and concrete. It's people who bring our structures to life and build communities. We stick by the people who make communities. From Toowoomba Rugby League to RACQ Lifelight Rescue Service, Milne Bay Military Challenge, and the Toowoomba Tennis International, Hutchies is proud to back the people who support the region.
Oz Hosting is proud to support Switched On IT in bringing practical help to Australian businesses. We're talking to literally hundreds of businesses every day about their IT services, how to make them more efficient, how to make their businesses more efficient, and how to protect their valuable data. If you'd like your IT services securely hosted right here in Australia and expertly managed, talk to Oz Hosting. Yeah, we can certainly see that they're building Office 365 as a brand into a very feature-rich platform with multiple services inside it, and I think that level of integration is going to ultimately make it much more useful to customers. I guess one of the things in their file sharing space that I'm still waiting to see is a much simplified version of SharePoint, because I feel at the moment we're still seeing that customers that want to share files and folders seamlessly to external parties, the other file sharing services seem to make it a bit easier for them, because they're forced down the SharePoint path, and that's a little bit too complicated. I think one of the other use cases that I've witnessed with file sharing that I thought was pretty interesting, and this was one of our clients that's got a large team of tradesmen, plumbers going to various sites, up and down the coast in Queensland, and their challenge was that very often these people would get on site, and what they'd been told they were going to see and what they were told they needed to do was often quite different to what they found when they showed up on site, and then that requires a lot of communication back to the head office, which oftentimes can be hours and hours drive away, not really feasible for somebody to jump into a truck and go and oversee what's going on. And one of the great things about file sharing services and what this company does is they're using rush files, so all these subcontractors don't cost them anything to be an additional user, but they're just able to hold up their phone, snap off a couple of shots, maybe take a 30 or 60 seconds of video of a tricky thing that they're seeing in a trench or stuck inside a wall or something like that, and they can share that back with head office instantly and then jump on the phone. So obviously in rush files like you have with Drive and so on, you have an app on your phone, you can just immediately hit share on the app on the phone, share it to rush file, share it to the particular folder for that particular client where all their information and collateral resides, and then it's very easy for the person back at head office to then look at that, watch the video, look at the footage, and somebody with a bit more knowledge can then come back to the tradesman and say, this is how we'd like you to handle it, or it might be a case of going back to the client and saying, there's a different cost for this because what needs to be done is a little bit different to what you thought needed to be done. So I think that was a pretty interesting, novel use case, the way file sharing is being used, and it was also interesting for us because particularly in the construction trades, the adoption of these kinds of technologies hasn't been at the forefront for those folks.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more trades, professional trades, and service professionals picking up on technology where they once didn't. And I think this is one cost reduction mechanism and an efficiency issue. But the other side is that they see the value in their customer experience. And so the more of them that use those types of tools, the more and better the customer experience is going to be. And therefore, the higher billable rates they can potentially charge, and just generally using that as a goodwill and a marketing component as well. So I think there's a value in that as well. To close out, I wanted to talk a little bit about that third category of tools, which is kind of sharing when we're in person. And so, we're sitting around the conference room table, and I have a big file or just a small file or a group of files. And I say, oh, you know what? These you need to deal with, Doug. And so I want to send these over to you. It turns out that all of the major operating systems today have some level of ability to send those. And so, so I just wanted to cover those so everybody's aware. If you're on the Microsoft platform, there's Windows Microsoft Nearby Sharing. And so you just go into the Action Center and you have the Share Nearby or the Sharing Experience option, and you can just go ahead and enable Nearby Sharing and share those files with another Microsoft user pretty quickly and easily. If you're on Apple, there's AirDrop, and that's across the ecosystem. So whether you're on your Mac OS, your iPad, or your iPhone, and even the iPod Touch, you can just use AirDrop and just AirDrop it to any other device, which is really, really seamless. And then finally, Android. And Android has Android Beam. It has file transfer, USB based transfer, so you can plug two devices in physically and use file transfer and Android file transfer protocol. And then you have Bluetooth and NFC based file transfer. So Android gives you all of the options, some more secure than others. But just know that if you're in person and you're physically there, don't wait to send a file, because if you're just there, you can go ahead and send it right there. You don't need to send it up to the cloud to bring it back down. If you just need to send it a one-off file send, very similar to, as we talked about, Firefox send or WeTransfers, for those one-time, I just need to give you these files, here they go kind of thing. And so just know that it's available to you.
And I think just without scaring everybody, Ray, that's also one of the things that business owners need to know is a capability of the devices that their staff are carrying around, because it's a potential data loss or IP loss, if you like, threat to the business, and there's ways of controlling that as well. So certainly people can set up policies and make sure the extent to which those particular tasks can be executed. But I think overall, absolutely, we know that file sharing is definitely vastly superior to sending somebody an email attachment, and there are certainly loads of ways that businesses can improve their productivity by using some of these file sharing services that are available to them. I think, Ray, if you've got any more, I was just going to invite Barry to jump in and let us know if he's got any comments or experiences he'd like to share.
Yes, thanks, guys. Not really. I think that you've pretty much covered everything there. I personally use Dropbox. And that we share files across. My editor is located in Croatia, and so we're able to share editing files across Dropbox quite easily. We have found from time to time that Dropbox has had a little glitch and the files don't go up as quickly as you want to, in which case we've used WeTransfer. So we use a mix of things to get our files around the place. I like Dropbox because Dropbox, unlike email, if you send an email, you can never be sure that the person has actually gotten the file. With Dropbox, you can be sure that once it's in Dropbox, they're going to get it.
Yeah, something that I really like about Dropbox also, which I'm hoping that the Google gods are listening to, which is they allow you to be able to annotate a file without opening it. So no matter what file you have in Dropbox, you can create a comment chain next to that particular file, which is a very, very nice feature. And so Google add tags and add the ability to comment on a file without opening it, if you're listening.
Yeah, the other thing too about Dropbox that I like is that you can either send a file in Dropbox so that somebody can just view it, but they can't play with it or change it, or you can send them editing rights to it so that they can actually change it, which is nice if you've got something that you don't want somebody fooling around with and changing.
Yeah, that's a pretty useful capability, and I know that with Office 365, the ability to control what people are doing with particular documents is getting quite a lift in functionality as well, so that you can send people secure emails. You can make sure that they can open a document, read it, but they can't print it, can't forward it, really can't do anything with it, and then potentially even set an expiry date for it. So the ability to secure documents and intellectual property is becoming a lot more sophisticated, because probably driven by the ease of use of these file sharing platforms.
Yeah. All right, we might leave it there now for today. Thank you for your time, Doug Endersby and Ray Sidney Smith. We will come back to you again next week.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Barry.
Well, there you go. Now, there's lots of information about file sharing there. As we've said in previous shows, if you've got any questions or if there's anything that you want to know about this, just send us an email, programming@powertvaustralia.com. The address is on the bottom of your screen there. And we'll forward your questions on to Doug and Ray and get them to answer them for you. We look forward to seeing you again next week on this show when we talk about another IT topic with Doug and Ray. This has been Switched on IT for Power TV Australia. I'm Barry. We'll see you next week.
Power TV Australia presents the Celebrity Christmas Telethon, supported by Optus and Harvey Norman Toowoomba, live from Rumours International, November 23 from 4 till 9 p.m, showcasing some great local talent while raising money for the Toowoomba Hospital Foundation. To donate, phone in and chat to one of our celebrities or be part of the audience at Rumours. For more info, email telethon@powertvaustralia.com or call 0431 390 920. The Celebrity Christmas Telethon, November 23rd, live on powertvaustralia.com.